is a real focus on audience. I think that often gets missed. And I think that is a key part to setting up a data management strategy, right? It's ultimately to help personalize the customer experience. In this case, the customer is the supporter or the donor. And the link there as well is that it does help organizations gain a competitive advantage in the market. And I think that the customer has to sit at the center of all these considerations, right? How does the customer benefit? How does their experience with the brand change positively over time? And it's actually a data management strategy can help you get there.
And meeting users where they're at in order to build trustworthy relationships with the user, but also to continue to call the data in a way that is effective for our advocacy efforts.
Knowing your supporter base, knowing your donor base couldn't be more important, right? Because you don't want to ask the wrong person during a time where they actually may be one of those, in that 30 percentile who's lost their job and just can't afford a gift at this time. So I think like proper data management allowed organizations during COVID to really segment their supporters, and these are the individuals we're gonna speak with, we're gonna continue to engage with and share impact, but we're not gonna ask. But this is the segment that we can ask, because we know, based off of our record keepings and based off of our data hygiene, that this is a group that we can still continue to ask. So I think that's another reason for just good, clean data management, so that you know when and how to ask during uncertain times.
As a marketer, the big shift that I have seen is it's gone from being masters of advertising or masters of brand to being masters of data and strategy and ROI. And so with that in mind, the challenges that I have seen coming into such a large organization like UNICEF probably are twofold. One is multiple siloed projects, but they're using the same data, right? So then you've got to sort of duplicate the efforts and the costs associated with that data. And the other side to it is data activities that consume a ton of time and resources, but they're not actually contributing to overall business objectives. So I think I would start with asking a question: what are the business objectives? What data then is needed to meet those objectives? And then what types of insights or information is needed to make progress against where those initiatives are?
I think that oftentimes the data is influenced and biased by who's collecting it. And if you're not asking the question, then the data isn't getting collected. So we went straight to target communities and saying, like, where are you? What do you want to hear? How does that look? What's the fastest way for you to engage? I sit on the board of Giving Tuesday, which I think most folks are familiar with. And we talk there also a lot about distributed organizing and what does that look like to have a core message, but trying to expand that and reach it to as many people as possible. And then call that data back to continue a positive feedback mechanism to improve the data that you're sharing, and sort of a nice figure eight back and forth. How do you do that when you're trying to connect to communities most in need? So not necessarily to full-time staff, not to community leaders or stakeholders, but to your everyday person who is participating in the tech that you're offering.
Yeah, omni-channel approach to fundraising, to constituent management is absolutely key, especially today, and especially with younger supporters and constituents. I think it's less about knowing when to flip the switch and more about where people are aggregating, where the community is interacting and building, and tapping it from that perspective, right? So if you start to see a lot of support for your organization on TikTok, then it's probably time to start going to TikTok. So I think it's really dependent on where the communities are gathering and connecting.
The value that access to clean, quality data brings UNICEF is the ability to assimilate so much data, to do it in real time, to be able to present that properly to the supporter or constituents. Because we know that improves not only the timeliness of the ask, but also it's relevancy. And so I think a lot of people would call that personalization. And that's important, right? That allows us to not pepper you across every single channel all at once, and talk to you in a much more meaningful way.